Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are both campaigning today in the key battleground states. Clinton will be in Ohio later this afternoon, while Trump is spending his day in North Carolina and then Pennsylvania. Speaking in Fletcher, North Carolina, just a short time ago, Trump urged his supporters to get out the vote.
Hillary Clinton is the most corrupt politician ever to seek the office of the presidency. Let's do this. Let's do this. November 8th, let's win. Let's win. Let's win. We win, we have lots of options, but we got to win. What a waste of time if we don't pull this off. You know, these guys have said, doesn't matter if you win or lose. There's never been a movement like this in the history of this country. I say it matters to me whether we win or lose.
With me now from Washington is Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson. John, there's a new NBC News SurveyMonkey poll that was conducted online yesterday. It shows 45% of Republicans said they actually might not accept the election results if their candidate doesn't win, compared to 16% for Democrats. Is this concerning?
Well, it is concerning for a couple of reasons. One, it affects we're not talking about just behavior after the vote is taken. This affects the conditions leading up to the vote. If people are in that state of doubt about the ultimate outcome, they can take emergency action, or they can take action that they might not otherwise have considered if they get kind of whipped up into a frenzy. And so that puts the vote in peril before it even takes place. I think it matters after the vote takes place in terms of trying to bring the country together. If that number of people feels as though the vote has been stolen from them, essentially, then they're going to not be in a mood to kind of get together behind a new president, which has been the tradition, at least in some fashion. Obviously, there have always been disappointed people after an election, but there was a notion of once that a president had a honeymoon. And the reason also is that those voters will then put pressure on their lawmakers when they are in Washington making deals with that new president, if it's Hillary Clinton in this scenario. And so any lawmaker who works with her, their constituents might think, well, you're working with somebody who stole the election. So it's a pretty dangerous finding. The question, though, is, do those number of people, if the election goes and let's say Donald Trump loses by a lot, will they still hold that view, or will they change it?
I want to look out west, John. Michelle Obama, Bernie Sanders, Chelsea Clinton, they've all campaigned for Hillary Clinton in Arizona this week. Is there really a chance for a state like Arizona and others that are traditionally red to actually turn blue?
It's a long shot, but if they can, but it's one of those long shots that it's worth spending a little time on, because A, it creates mischief. B, in a state like Arizona, it might elect a Democrat to the Senate by defeating John McCain. C, by mischief, I guess I should explain what I mean by mischief. Mischief means that it maybe focuses, maybe Donald Trump has to make another visit to Arizona to deal and whip up his supporters there to make sure he doesn't lose the state. Maybe he has to spend some money in Arizona. Maybe he just has to spend 15 more minutes thinking about Arizona when he should be thinking about 13 other states. So it also means that the Clinton team thinks they're doing well enough in those 13 states that they can operate outside of what would be traditional battleground states. So, let's see where we are in a couple of weeks. Another state, of course, to watch is Utah, where Donald Trump may be in a real race with the independent candidate, Evan McMullin there. So that's another one to watch. And
also the Senate races. We're looking at Florida. We're seeing the Senate race there tightening. When you're looking down ballot, what's the biggest worry for Republican leaders right now?
Well, the biggest worry is they lose the Senate and lose control of the Senate. And then the states to watch are New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Florida. Wisconsin looks like it may. A lot of Republicans think it's already going to turn blue. The real question is the Senate, if the Democrats take control, and then just by what margin, how many seats they have to play with if they do control the Senate.
And we've seen a lot of GOP leaders distancing themselves from Donald Trump. So how do they walk that balance, John, whether there's a challenger for whether you're seeking re-election or a current election seat? How do Republican voters who aren't unified around Trump, how do you get them mobilized if they don't support the candidate?
Well, it may be a little too late. I mean, if you're somebody like Rob Portman, you worked on it long and hard well before any of these more recent issues with Donald Trump. Rob Portman is the incumbent senator from Ohio, who looks like he's sailing to victory in Ohio, has sort of created the model campaign of both not offending Trump supporters, but also picking up all those reluctant Republicans who might not vote for Donald Trump in the general, but are going to vote for Rob Portman. The problem for other candidates is it's quite late to do that kind of thing, and you just got to hope that it's not a big wave election. Because let's say you're Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania and Donald Trump loses by 5 or 6 points. That might be enough for you as Pat Toomey as an incumbent to squeak by. But if Donald Trump loses by 10 or 12, that means that a lot of Democrats are turning out, and it's that much harder for you to win. And so it's really a little bit out of their hands. It's now just a question of if they can do the best they can to turn out their votes and just hope that Donald Trump doesn't create a wave.
I want to ask you about the Al Smith dinner last night. You know, traditionally, this is a dinner known for its self-deprecating humor. Apparently, that tradition was broken last night. Here's a clip of Trump and Clinton and what they had to say.
We've learned so much from WikiLeaks. For example, Hillary believes that it's vital to deceive the people by having one public policy and a totally different policy in private. That's okay. I don't know who they're angry at, Hillary, you're right. For example, here she is tonight in public pretending not to hate Catholics.
My blood pressure is 100/70. His is unbelievably great. My cholesterol is 189. His is presidential. My heart rate is 72 beats per minute. His is the most beats ever, or the least beats ever, whichever sounds best. But Donald really is as healthy as a horse. You know, the one Vladimir Putin rides around on.
Ooh, a couple boos there for Hillary Clinton. John, what was your take on the dinner last night?
Well, this is a nice old tradition. It's supposed to be a unity event. There wasn't a lot of unity going on there. Candidates kind of rib each other. Donald Trump obviously decided to break that barrier. Obviously he's broken a lot of barriers this campaign. I think it doesn't matter. It probably, helps Donald Trump to see a lot of people in white tie booing him. He has been for several weeks on a course of basically turning his vote into a very super energized Donald Trump vote, not worrying too much about adding to that group. So he was perfectly in keeping with the kind of Trump candidacy we've come to know and love in his behavior at the Al Smith dinner.
You know, I always love it when George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton get together. You see these two people who were rivals at one point somehow patch things up and represent the U.S. in various places throughout the world. But I don't know. Is there any hope for these two after the election? They might patch things up, John?
Well, we must always kindle a little hope. Better to light a candle than curse the darkness. So let's hope that it might be possible. More important, though, going back to your initial question, is whether the people who have supported Donald Trump and whose grievances are real, regardless of what you think about the candidate, what they feel like and whether they can find hope in an outcome that might not be the one that they would prefer.
Well said. Our John Dickerson in Washington. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Rena.